Art therapy is a form of counseling that works to help people tell their stories when maybe there aren't really words for it.
A lot of times the words don't capture an experience. You try to identify or explain an experience, the words don't get it. Sometimes art can be a way to get to the heart of an experience, communicate something for which there are no words. Art is our primary way of connecting. We can talk about stuff, we can connect with people verbally around the art, but art is the primary voice. We have the idea of the continuum that materials can be structured to unstructured. So a very structured material would be like a pencil, and then colored pencils are a little bit less structured because you have more colors and choices. Tempera paints or finger paints are very unstructured, as is clay. You can't guide them, you can't direct them, you can't control them as well.
So for instance, clay is very messy and dirty and very regressive, almost like it can take you back to creating a mud pile when you were a little kid.
With pottery, it's very much about the metaphor. What you actually have to do, you're leaning into the pottery wheel, and you've got this piece of clay and your hand's shaking because it's off center. And what you have to do is use your entire body to get it centered. If you don't get it centered, you can't throw a pot. So we talk about being centered and what that means with life. And all of a sudden it starts, you can feel it center. You can feel it go on center. And so we talk about that. And then pulling up the walls and all the bits and pieces, use the metaphor of creating the pot to help them understand about how you need to be centered and effort and be in your body. And so there are all sorts of bits and pieces about that metaphor that you can use.
So with the color wheel, we talk about the cycle of depression and addiction in the color wheel. And what I do is I help patients begin to think about what all the different colors mean. Then we go around and we talk about the cycle that happens so often. And that's so many times we start on blue, something internal is going on and we don't quite know what to do about it. We don't really know how to handle it. And many times it's something that is happening internally that's not necessarily visible on the outside. So maybe it's depression, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's chronic pain, maybe it's a spiritual pain and something's happened to cause you to question your connection with your higher power. That isn't really visible on the outside, but it's more an internal struggle. And frequently that leads to us going to purple and using unhealthy ways of coping, when so often when we have an internal struggle and we don't have a way to express it, we use unhealthy ways of coping with it. And then we go up to red and we go to anger and we get really mad at ourselves and we want to stop and we want to do things in a healthier way, but we don't really know how to do that. And it can create a lot of internal anger. And then we go to orange and we get stuck in like this cycle of craving, and it's like, I don't know what else to do, I'm doing the best I can, and we can kind of get stuck in that place. And then we go to yellow and we use whatever those unhealthy ways of coping are again and kind of get stuck in that. And so often we skip green, or we go to green and we go to envy, jealousy, and greed. And when we're really not doing well and not handling things well, so often we focus on the differences between us and everyone else. And we focus on either putting everyone else above us and putting ourselves down, or we reverse it and we elevate ourselves and we put other people down. Either way, it's in an effort to separate ourselves from other people. But we talk a lot about hope, which really is kind of an emotion that propels us forward and doesn't allow us to be stagnant. If we're really hopeful, we get up and we do something about it. And so then we go back to blue and we go around again, and this time we go to calm. Then we go up to purple and we go to spirituality, and frequently that's when people connect or reconnect to their higher power. And then we go to red and we learn to love ourselves. And then we go to orange and we learn about change. How do we change ourselves in a healthy way? And then we go to yellow and we learn to have fun again, which is such an important part of life. And then we go down to green and we learn about the freedom that can come from consistently doing what we don't want to do. But we had this one guy that was blind, and he was like, well, I can't do anything, I'm blind. And this other guy was like, oh, come on, man, sure you can. And so these two men worked together from very, very different backgrounds, but they worked together and they cut sponges, and then the blind guy dipped the sponges in different colors, and then the guy that could see helped him figure out where to put it, and they worked together to create all the flowers in what was supposed to be the Botanical Gardens of Birmingham on the wall with sponges, and not being able to see a bit of it. So with knitting, it's very frustrating at first, but then after you learn to knit, it's the same thing over and over and over again. And that repetition can be very cathartic. It can also be very anxiety producing, or it can irritate the stew out of you. So I taught this guy to knit. He was probably mid-40s, had gotten into some trouble with the law for a very white-collared crime, and he used it as a means of anger management. And he got very angry at first, and he was very easily frustrated with the process. But then he learned how helpful it could be, and he would be on the unit and yell and get so mad, and then he would go, "I just need my knitting!" It was a great aha moment for him that helped him realize that he could control it by doing something that he thought he never ever would be doing. Art therapy is about expressing yourself and finding a way to explore things or problem solve through things in maybe a safe place that you couldn't have elsewhere.